Avengers, assemble. Welcome back to the channel, and thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying the videos we're producing, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And if you're in a position, you can support the channel by checking us out on our Patreon, the link of which is in the description below. So let's get right into it. I feel like we could do a whole separate video just on the Fantastic Four and every single little bit of rumbling we've heard about that casting. But for the sake of this video, we're going to focus on something bigger, and that is Doom's inevitable arrival into the MCU. It is, without a doubt, easy to say that Dr. Doom is the most highly anticipated villain's arrival in the MCU. There is no other character with the weight and presence and capability of taking part in any corner of this franchise than there is Dr. Doom. Now, if you have followed this channel, you know that I have my favorite villains. And you know that those villains are Dr. Doom, Magneto, and Kang the Conqueror. Now, what they've done with Kang the Conqueror has left me dismayed and utterly disappointed. Also, even right down to the casting choice and the criminal that he is. So, all hope for me and my excitement hinges on recasting Kang, but then also leveraging these other great characters. Now, in terms of Dr. Doom and Magneto, I think it is fair and reasonable to say that, yeah, Doom is an all-over threat. He is a universal threat. He can be a villain to literally anyone. Magneto's always been specialized, and even lately, he's not that kind of straight-up villain anymore. And a case could be made that none of these big-tier characters are straight-up villains, though the movies love to turn them into one-note enemies. My greatest point, again, besides how they've wasted Kang the Conqueror so far, is how they turned Thanos into someone who is madly in love and trying to impress a girl into, well, what we got. And your mileage may vary on how you appreciated the presentation of Thanos. I did not. I long for what Joss Whedon's original plan was. And yes, it's unfortunate what has become of Joss Whedon and his career and how he's looked upon now. But he had an understanding and he had good ideas. And when he had made that statement to challenge them as to court death, I mean, that was very overt. That was going to be 100% Whedon's plan. Whedon was going to have Thanos do all of this to impress a girl out of love. So, what is next for Dr. Doom? Like, what is next for the MCU in terms of Dr. Doom's arrival? The biggest story is, due to contract stipulations and weird negotiations, that Kang the Conqueror pretty much can't be recast. I've heard mixed reports on that, so I don't want to jump the gun too much, which is why you're not going to see a video titled "Marvel Can't Recast Kang," because there is mixed reporting. Also, if Jonathan Majors is found guilty, and hopefully he is because he is actually a criminal, then any stipulations like that go out of the window because of the clause in his Disney contract. There are certain agreements that have to be made. It's a shame WB didn't stick to those with Ezra Miller, but I digress. So when we look forward and we look at the multiversal saga and we look how Kang is built, there are avenues, right? Kang, for one, does not have to be the ultimate end-all villain. Frankly and thankfully, you could easily write him out at this point. You could give him one more appearance somewhere and write him out, and he could just have been a cog in the machine. There is easily room for that, especially when you consider how few appearances Thanos had before his main, role in the Avengers films in Infinity War and Endgame. So when we look at Dr. Doom, the argument that's been made to me, that I've seen in discussions, that I've seen in my comments, even in my live streams, is that Doctor Doom can't come out of nowhere and be the big bad of two Avenger films that aren't scheduled, well, internally. Obviously, these dates could always shift, but right now, internally, Avengers Secret Wars Part 1 and Part 2 were scheduled for 2027 and 2028. We're just about to get into 2024, right? If they cast Doom before the end of the year, it's very possible that Doom could be teased and have an appearance at any point in 2024. He could literally pop up anywhere before his inevitable appearance in the Fantastic Four film in 2025. There are years before we get to Secret Wars. Can anyone tell me how many appearances Thanos had? Yeah, think about it for a minute. He had the post-credit scene in the first Avengers in 2012. He had the role in 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy as a kind of background supporting character, very Emperor Palpatine-ish. He had a post-credit scene in Age of Ultron. That's it. Then he starred in Infinity War and Endgame, the two actual Infinity Gauntlet movies. That's it. I am sorry, but it is disingenuous to say that the same cannot be applied to Doctor Doom. It's offensive. They literally did that with Thanos. Thanos had no meaningful appearances until Infinity War and Endgame. He was there popping up. Yes, the stones were talked about constantly across numerous post-credit scenes, but Thanos himself had no significant major appearances besides 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy, and you could do that for Doom in Fantastic Four. He could just be a character. He could be the Emperor Palpatine of that movie without being any kind of the center bad guy that's defeated. So, yes, they could very easily have Doom be the villain of Secret Wars Part 1 and Part 2. He could easily amass as many or more appearances than Thanos did in the time it took to get to 2018's Infinity War. We have 2025, 2026, and even films in 2027 before we get to the big Avengers event films. So, no, I really, really disagree with that statement. Doom can be established and set up and be the big villain. Kang can be forgotten about. And I say that, and it hurts. I love Kang the Conqueror. I love his love story. I love everything about the character. But unfortunately, if they stick with the actor that they have, after what's been leaked about his role, about his behavior in behind the scenes of Season 2 of Loki, his behavior in the UK during the filming of Loki, this person is a criminal. He's not even worth being called a man. Then my relationship with any Kang appearances in film come to an end. I won't pay for that, just like I won't pay for Ezra Miller. I'm not going to line their pockets. It makes me feel icky. So, Doom's first appearance could be any time in 2024, and then he's guaranteed an appearance in Fantastic Four. But who's playing Doctor Doom? Just like with the Fantastic Four, everyone under the sun has been named him. And honestly, with the way I have to record and get videos done, this could be outdated by the time it finally goes up. I know that Marvel Studios has met with a number of actors. I know one of those actors is Cillian Murphy. Now, in terms of behavior and presence, I think that's really interesting casting. He's an amazing actor. I've loved him in everything I've seen him in. And then obviously it's very easy for me to look and go, Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones, that actor who, Nikolai, I can't remember his name. I apologize, but you know who I'm talking about. We've talked about it in live streams before. There's a lot of room and there's a lot of opportunity for Doctor Doom to hit the ground running, to have as many appearances as Thanos did before a big two-parter, and be the central villain. It's very easy to do that. And I think Cillian Murphy is potentially a great and amazing role for that. Honestly, I think Pedro Pascal would be a great fit for that. I know there's a lot of debate on who the hell is reading for what, and it is an absolute mess. There is a lot of talk that some of these actors were called in to test for different roles than what's being discussed and what they're getting. So it's a wild ride right now, especially as of the time of this recording, which could easily be outdated, and I'm cool with that. I still think the Doom discussion and how he can easily have a role to play in just as many appearances that Thanos did across the Infinity Saga fits. Beyond Cillian Murphy, there was a weird report about Mads Mikkelsen being approached for Doctor Doom. I have to be completely honest. I've not been able to find any proof of that. I've not been able to find any kind of documentation, any clues, any gossip. No one saw anybody meeting around the offices. There's no reports. There's no legitimate reports that I can reach out to and go, did you see this? There's nothing. It seems to be empty air. I think when these roles finally come out, it's going to be a blessing because it will finally put it into a lot of clickbait. But the honest truth is, it is a shorter list for who hasn't met for these characters. Marvel and Disney have been rushing to get this cast done and announced before the end of the year, since the end of the strikes. They are desperately rushing to get this done. And that's why this could very quickly and very suddenly be outdated. And it's not my desire to add to the noise, but I do think it is worthwhile mentioning in terms of who they're looking at, and potentially what other actors could that line up with. That Cillian Murphy, and I apologize if I'm saying any part of his name wrong, but he is the one that is coming up the most, and yes, he has met with Marvel. But again, like everything else, it's hard to say when you're not in those closed-door meetings. If you're not in that room, it's hard to say exactly what he's meeting for. The only clues in terms of gossip that I could discover is that when Cillian had a discussion with Marvel, there was the same Doctor Doom concept art around the office, the same Doctor Doom concept art that we leaked and talked about that got Disney after us. So that is where we're at right now. We are literally none the wiser. So thank you so much for watching. Above all else, and most importantly, stay safe, take care of others, and have a marvelous day. Bye, everyone.